So people are very happy and very open to learning new spiritual techniques and modes and methods and connecting with new spiritual resources, and they are very happily making progress, or so they think, on their spiritual path till they come to this point. And then comes the major obstacle, then comes the major challenge, then comes the major pitfall. You can learn all the new spiritual techniques, incorporate all the spiritual resources out there from all the different places of the world. But if you are not ready for this thing, it will all come to nothing. It will all be a waste. What is that one major mistake, or that one big piece of information or fact which most people are unaware of when they begin learning something new spiritually? Welcome to Wholeness and Soul Matters with Chuchi. If you like the content I share, if you find something useful in it, do consider subscribing to my channel and do press the bell icon so that you do not miss any notifications of whatever I consider worthy to share with you all here for the purpose of expanding your consciousness, our consciousness. So, your spiritual journey has begun, you say, and you couldn't have been more excited and more happy about it. Well, congratulations for having finally arrived at the beginning of what was always meant to be the very and the sole purpose of your creation, of your existence, and of your having taken God knows how many births across however many dimensions of time, space, and consciousness. Well, congratulations on having reached this milestone. Now, you've been watching so many spiritual things, you've been participating and engaging in so many different sources, resources, and mediums of spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to flow through you, whether they be books, whether they be meditation retreats, whether they be courses, or whether they be spiritual channels, or people talking about all things to do with our consciousness and spirituality, including this channel. It's great to see so many people coming back full circle from living lives that were primarily three-dimensional, that were primarily only operating through and focused on the five physical senses, and lives that were primarily extroverted, in the sense not of an extroverted personality, but in the sense of everything which goes into your thinking, into your making, into your functioning is outwardly focused. So as I was saying, it's great to see people coming back full circle from having led those kinds of lives, so-called scientifically based lives, to lives where they wish to have a greater participation with their inward self, where they wish to have that inner self take over a greater part of their lives. Nothing could have been better. Now, this is something which is being often given the name by some people as New Age spirituality. Perhaps those specific, very distinct ways of bringing spiritual knowledge which are suited for the modern man are often being referred to as New Age spirituality. But in reality, if you were to ask me, it's great that we have some specific ways and which are available to people which were not available in the past times. So bringing them things in a more simplified way, whereby the search for your inner self could have been a really long and cumbersome single person search in the past. Nowadays, everything is like kind of becoming packaged and brought to you at your doorstep. So in the past, someone maybe say in India wanted to, have a spiritual experience, or wanted to, he was like done with a material life, done with the life, the usual mundane routine, and he looked for more. He knew there was more than what he could see, and the thirst for it, the yearning to know it was coming from inside him. So what are the options he would have? He could either go in search of a teacher, of a guru, seek out religious scriptures or texts to see if he could find some answers there, or he could, go off, wander off into the jungles, into the forests, into the mountains, in search of solitude, in search of that something which could, guide his inner journey and allow it to expand outwards. So in modern times, people do not usually just get up and become monks or go off wander into the forests. And the good part is that there are a lot of resources available, a lot of tools, because we now have so much consolidation of and archiving of spiritual works of different religions, different faiths, available to anyone across the world, anywhere they are. Interconnectivity of the world is great for someone in the modern times, great for someone in these times to be able to pick and choose which path, which way of connecting to the spiritual is they feel is really aligned to them personally, out of the many available, which is the one which really speaks to them. Well, the point of this video is to share my thoughts, not on what you should choose and what you should not choose when you're being guided to listen to someone, or whether you're being guided to a book, one book against many other books, or whether you're being guided to one kind of meditation as opposed to many other kinds available. So my point is not to guide you what to choose and what not to choose. The choice is yours. My point is to make you aware of something really important before you start becoming too excited about all those tools available, and before you start embarking on all sorts of different journeys in your path of finding yourself spiritually. And what is that one core thing? So while it's great to want to learn and to start learning new spiritual tools, technologies, connect with new spiritual resources, learn so much more to help you expand your consciousness on the spiritual path, so that everything that you formerly thought not possible to come to you is now completely possible for you. It flows into your life, whether it be joy, happiness, peace, abundance. But more than that, more than learning all those spiritual things, it is important for you to unlearn a lot which was part of your old self, and which is so deeply rooted into you, which is so deeply integrated into you that it's almost like your second self. And that part of you, that self, is almost inseparable from who you think you are. So much so that after a point, no matter how much you keep on practicing, how many new spiritual things, ways of being, techniques, you keep on learning, how many new spiritual modes of getting abundance or getting happiness you keep on learning, if you do not unlearn the things that were part of the old you, the stuck you, the bonded you, the limited you, these new things, this new flow, this new energy will not really be able to integrate. So realize that as much as spirituality, becoming spiritual, be going inwards from the outward three-dimensional self, is about learning the new thing, learning and embracing and being open to the things which you had blocked earlier, it is also about unlearning the false beliefs, unlearning the old conditioned ways of thought, belief, attitude and habit that have been momentous, that have played major roles in making you who you are or who you were before you decided to start on this new spiritual path, before you became aware of the fact that there was way more to you than you had been taught and than you were ever aware of. And this is the part where I find many people becoming stuck, especially the people who are new to spirituality, who've been very excited, who've been wanting, who've becoming more and more aware, and who've been very excited and happy to finally have a spiritual dimension to their life, to have begun on a spiritual journey which was not part of their life earlier, who have recently discovered the spiritual side, or this recently embarked on the spiritual journey. So it's very easy for them to fall into this pitfall. I see it all the time, especially even in my healing work. People want to heal, they want to trust that there is something bigger out there than just the disempowering ways of health that they have been conditioned into. They know that there's something bigger than just medicine, and then there's something just bigger than being dependent on someone else to take care of your health. There's something bigger which flows not from outside them but inside them, which can heal them. They know, but they want that healing, they want that knowledge, But when it comes to the moment of truth, when they reach that point, they are unable to do it because it requires them a lot of work. And most of that work is unlearning the deep-rooted patterns, the deep-rooted habits which are still working inside them, even though they think that they have come to the point when they're ready for the change, when they are ready to embrace the new them, when they're ready to embrace the new way of being, when they're ready to embrace their own power. They have no idea how clingy they are about that zone of disempowerment, about that zone of feeling limited, or that zone of feeling victimized, or that zone of comfortable but harmful, destructive beliefs and habits which they are so used to living through that even to leave them, to let go of them, is, it feels like, becoming exposed. It feels like having no security. It feels like the security blanket is gone. It feels like having been abandoned, thrown out there into the cold nothing, with nothing to fall back on. So it's that kind of feeling, and that is a pitfall people have to really be aware of and prepared for before they start really incorporating all those spiritual tools, before they really become serious about making any kind of spiritual change in their life, before they really become serious about expanding their consciousness. That there will come time when it will be expected of you to leave, to cut away, to release, to dissolve your old ways of being. And that involves not learning but unlearning, not doing but undoing. So the question you have to ask yourself before you begin on that journey, or at least when you reach this point, because this point will come definitely, inevitably, the question you have to ask is, are you ready for the learning as well as for the unlearning? Are you ready for the undoing as well as for the doing? Because a lot of spiritual work is not so much doing but not doing. A lot of embracing yourself and connecting to your authentic self is not learning something new, not gaining something new, but letting go of something that was always what you thought was a part of you, and it never was. It was an illusion. Letting go of things you've clung so tightly to, those people, those beliefs, those thought patterns, the programming inside you, which you thought was you and which you still think is you. So what happens is that a lot of people think that spiritual journey, a true serious spiritual journey, is something where you gain something new. You'll just be gaining things. Once you start on a method, once you start with the technique, you'll be gaining this and that, and you'll become more empowered and more happier and more wiser, and everything will start becoming clearer and falling into place into your life, without realizing that the process is not that simple. You can gain all these things, but they were always part of you. There is something which covers this part of you. You have to undo that part of you. You have to unlearn. Are you ready for the learning? This learning will mean nothing unless you're ready for the unlearning. Unlearning the old conditionings, the old programmings, the beliefs, the precepts. So you have to unlearn the things. That is key, because the learning will automatically happen by default when that energetic space is cleared away and space is made which was filled in the past with all that junk which you thought was you. The new fresh energy, the newness of you, the authentic things, the authentic clarity will automatically come up and fill that space. Like clear water, it will fill that vessel which was earlier clouded. And it is the unlearning portion which, trust me, people find it really, really hard to do. The logical portion of their mind, the analytical portion of their mind comes in and takes over and becomes their biggest block ever, their biggest enemy ever. It always was the biggest enemy of people. It has no place really in the spiritual path. But even when trying to progress on the spiritual path, the biggest number one challenge, the biggest number one enemy becomes not an outside force, but their own inner habits, their own programming, their own mind, their own logic, reasoning, analytics, judgment, which takes over. These things have no place in allowing that energy which is from beyond to come and take over your life and guide it. So the process is, whenever you start really participating in a new tool, when you learn a new spiritual tool, say you learn a new spiritual method or technique at a course or a retreat, or for someone else, and you're really excited now to make it a part of your life. You cannot wait to try it out. You cannot wait to start making it a part of your life for whatever it's meant to bring into your life: greater happiness, greater peace, great abundance, clear away the negativity, better relationships, and you just cannot wait to try it. Just know, just please be aware that you will, if you're this excited, this passionate, you will make strides. You will, the learning will feel exciting. You will make, you will cross certain milestones, but there will eventually and very soon come a point, if you're really serious about taking this work deeper, there will come a point when you'll feel stuck. Because as much as you're learning, it will require you to now to take it deeper, to start unlearning some part of you which you never knew existed, which you never even realized how strongly rooted inside you it was, which you didn't know how deeply you are dependent on, how strongly you cling to. It almost feels like letting go of a baby. It almost feels like letting go of a part of you. And you will realize this. There will be some aspect of your life which is so dear to you, some way of being, some way of thinking, some way of existing, some way of relating, which feels so dear to you that it's almost entwined with you. You feel you cannot let go. It's part of your soul. And the question might come, how can I let go of this? How can that be? That's not possible. And that's the point when you will be stuck and you will not really be able to gain all the empowerment, all the light through that spiritual tool or method which you could possibly have had you had the faith and the courage and the resilience and the wisdom to let go and go all the way. So letting go means surrendering yourself completely, letting go of everything that no longer serves you for your highest good, because only when you do that will you fully, truly, wholeheartedly and wholly allow that which is for your highest good to come in, replace it and merge with you. So a lot of old skeletons in your closet, the old ways of being from your soul, from your mind, have to be released. And I'm warning you, it can sometimes be like a de-addiction. No, it's a very, very tough journey for those who are going through de-addiction of some kind of drug or any of that kind of habit. So it can be that kind of, you're someone so programmed, so rooted in the material self, so rooted in three-dimensional understanding, a three-dimensional aspect of life. Be aware that you will come a point when those aspects of you would have to be shelved away, let go of, surrendered, maybe even cut off like that. And those things can be very difficult. They can feel painful. That is where all the hard work happens. It doesn't always happen in learning. Okay, you have imbibed a certain amount of faith, certain amount of excitement, there's a certain amount of openness, even for someone who was never open before, who never had much faith earlier, but now because of certain reasons, the faith and the openness has come in, it has increased. But be mindful, be sure that this point will come, and that is the point when most people will give up, because it will be just too difficult and it will be just too easy to keep clinging on to the old you, and that will be the end of your spiritual journey. The old you will take over, and it'll run your life all the more in the same way, and maybe in even bigger way than before you started making some spiritual strides. So if you're someone on a spiritual path who's embarked on a spiritual journey, whether you are a newbie, whether you're someone midway, or whether you're someone really advanced and an old soul, don't ask yourself, are you ready to learn this spiritually? Because of course you are, and that's why you're here. Ask yourself, are you ready to unlearn? Are you ready to let go of the old you? Are you ready to unbecome? There lies your clue. I'll see you in another video soon. Till then, keep unlearning.